Welcome to another episode of the interview series where I am interviewing men and women that are serving the Colorado basketball community. This time we got Nick Graham, who is just a true hooper. He has coached at Iowa State, and not only is he an elite basketball trainer at all levels, youth, high school, college, pro, but he's also an author. He came out with his first book, God and Basketball, in 2020, and his new book, Underdog, is coming out soon. So let's get straight to the episode because I know y'all are going to enjoy it. Well, Nick, I appreciate you opening up your studio to us.
Yeah.
Just wanted to meet with you, interview, talk to you about all the amazing things you're doing in the basketball community here in Colorado. So the first question I always ask everybody is, tell us your basketball story.
My basketball story is probably started before I was born.
Okay.
I think my basketball story started when I was in the womb, being the son of a basketball coach.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what he did when my mom was pregnant with me, but whatever it did, it worked because, you know, for as long as I can remember, I've had a passion for basketball that hasn't done anything but just kind of like burn even deeper as I get older. And even the stories that they tell me before I was mindful, like I always had a basketball. I always wanted to be around. I was always engaged. And it's funny now, you know, when I see young dads that want their kids to be hoopers, I just tell them about my experience. I think that just being around the game, that's just always been something that is that I've always had a passion for. So I think that's where it started, you know. And I just remember vividly, you know, kind of like these milestone basketball moments that wouldn't mean anything to anybody else. But when I was old enough to like go to my dad's practices, that was a big deal for me. When I was old enough to be a water boy, you know, I think I was about 6 or 7, and I was like the youngest one, but I was old enough, like and I sat underneath the goal. You know, like on the backstop. And so for me, I think that's even one of the reasons that I've been successful in being a trainer is because I was shown the game more than I was taught it. You know what I mean? So like my dad coaching in college, you go to practice as a 7-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid, you like my dad just like, man, you better shut up. You don't say anything. So the fact that I didn't have a voice, only thing I could do was listen and watch. You know what I mean? So like that's probably the genesis of my basketball story.
So then what about like, where'd you go to high school? Where'd you grow up? What's college look like? What's that look like?
So like being a coach's kid, like you bounce around a lot, right? So like we went from Dallas to New Mexico for 2 years, and then we went from there to Oklahoma State. Stillwater, Oklahoma. So my heart is in Dallas. I was born in Dallas. My family's in Dallas. I love everything about Dallas, but the Cowboys, of course. But then moved to New Mexico. So born in Dallas, loved Dallas. Like grew up as an adolescent in Oklahoma, but that's also where I grew up and learned the game. When I look back and try to connect the dots as to why I've been good at what I'm doing, it's because one, during that journey, my dad coached at SMU, New Mexico, and Oklahoma State. One of the things that they had in common is like at each stop there was an All-American player.
Wow.
That I got to see. Like I got to see him work. I got to see how he handles pressure. I got to see how he was coached, and all of that. So that was huge. But then the other thing is when I was at Oklahoma State, is when my dad was in 6th grade, and his boss was a Hall of Fame coach, Eddie Sutton. And somebody on that staff was a Hall of Famer in Bill Self.
Wow.
And so just being able to just be around those guys, you know, like
just be a sponge.
And that's all I could be. Like, but they let me do that. Like I would go watch. It was like a class, basically. Now that I think about it, I never thought of it like that. But you know, it was like a lecture class because Coach Sutton is an old school man. Like you practice 3-4 hours. So for 3-4 hours, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I'm just sitting there not saying anything, just taking it all in. Just, you know, observing as much as I can. But not only that, he also opened up his locker room to me. So like before a game, I was in the locker room. After the game, I was in the locker room at halftime. So like there were times, can you imagine being 12, 13 years old and seeing a team play the number 2 team in the country in Kansas and Roy Williams or this school or that school, and seeing them down 8
Yeah.
And seeing, the communication between teammates, sometimes yelling, sometimes raising their voice, the yelling, the communication between coach and player. And, like as a kid, you may think, oh, man, so-and-so is upset because so-and-so yelled at him. And then you see them 10 minutes later, chest bumping, high five, going out and beating the number 2 team in the country.
So you got, basically you just have a backstage pass to high-level basketball from the get-go, which is so valuable because you're not learning the game by watching it on TV. Sure. You're learning the game from one of the best coaches and players out there. So that's cool. Yeah. So good. Well, you got a new book coming out soon, titled Underdog.
Underdog, yeah.
So tell me about what's the motivation and heart behind the book?
Yeah, like I've just, it's kind of like if you're, they say if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And so, like in the words of the great prophet Marshawn Lynch, I said I'm gonna be about that action ball. And what I mean that is like us in terms of parents, in terms of leaders, in terms of coaches, trainers, whatever you want to call it. It's the mentality. You got to be mentally strong. You got to be mentally strong, emotionally strong. We tell these kids that, right? And it's just like, okay, we're telling them that, but are we giving them the tools to be able to develop the strength, to develop the mental endurance? It's just like when a coach sees a player and they're like, man, he's going to be a really good player, but they look at his body and he's like, man, he's going to have to get stronger before next season. Right? So what do? They hire a strength coach and they have a strength program for them to do daily, a nutrition program and all that. Well, where's the mental program? Where's the emotional program? All of us agree that sports is 80% mental and 20% physical. But all we do is focus on the physical. So I was just like, man, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm gonna do something about it, And so for me, right, what's allowed me to be successful? I've been very, very successful. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can take that from me. More successful maybe than I even thought I could be. And, I'm not, and there are people that have better drills than me. There are people that may watch more film than me. But what's allowed me to be successful is my ability and my commitment to develop the mentality, to develop to connect with a player emotionally. I use the word frequently in my book, emotional toughness. You got to be emotionally tough to be a competitor. Like to get told no time after time after time and keep showing up, that's literally the definition of insanity. So like if you don't develop somebody to kind of have an insane mentality, be built kind of like insane as it relates to their emotions, I don't care how many jump shots you shoot, I don't care how many drills, how much weight you lift. Like when those tough times come that stand between them and what they want as an athlete, they're not going to be emotionally, mentally equipped. So that's what this book is just to help an underdog.
It's trying to get from, I was lucky enough for you to forward me an advanced copy and all that. So from the parts of the book I read and all that, what's great about it is you're talking about you have to not only physically work, but also prepare yourself mentally like you're an underdog every day. If you continue to do that every day, you're going to go leaps and bounds before what you previously imagined was possible for you because you're not limiting yourself based off of, hey, I'm good enough right now. Right? So it's great. And I love in the book, too, how you format it to someone's story, like an actual story that somebody can connect with, whether it's a NBA basketball player, whoever it is, they connect to it, and then you give your overtime section about like kind of thought-provoking areas and things like that, and then I forget what you call it, the
lemon drops,
where the quotes and things that you can take away, and because I'm a big quote guy, I love having little quotes in my head all the time. So having those quotes, I think, people can take out in the world with them and all that. It's awesome. So
I appreciate it, man. And like I said, like it's just that's exactly what it is, and not just for basketball players. I intentionally wrote this book, and the feedback that I've gotten from non-athletes is they identify with it. I think that if I start the book with the quote before we get started, and it says, if you're basically, I'm gonna butcher the quote, but like if you're living life the right way, then you're gonna be an underdog. You know what I mean? Like if you're not in an underdog situation, are you really living life the right way? So like all of us are required to compete in this game that we call life. You know what I mean? But about developing the mentality. One of the things that I really wanted to hammer home is enduring the no's. How many no's can you endure? You know, because no's are going to stand between you and your journey. So yeah, man, I just think that, you know, I'm excited because I think that, you know, like that's going to benefit me because there's not a lot of people that have maybe kind of committed to writing a book like this specifically for competitors slash athletes to support them mentally. We talk about mental health. You know, like I think as a society, we need to pat ourselves on the back for for advocating for mental health. But the thing about it is like mental health needs to be applied specifically to ultra competitors, which you have to be if you're going to go get a college scholarship, be a professional athlete or anything like that. Because the reason is like, one, you think about this, like when you are a competitive athlete, like failure is going to come more frequently. You know what I'm saying? You know, one of the best things is when I coached at Iowa State, being able to coach in the Big 12, it was like, this is competition at the highest level. What I mean by that is obviously coaching in college, but the best conference in America, there's literally like, you know, it prepares you for life because there was no days off. You got to be great at handling success. You got to be great at being able to, I was talking to Cedric the Entertainer when I interviewed him, and I asked him, like, how do you navigate through the noise? You know, because like success brings noise. And it's not so much people say, you know, stay away from the noise. Success, especially in today's society, is going to bring noise. But how are you able to handle the noise, right? That in the Big 12, you got to do that because I remember one game on Saturday, we beat Texas Tech with Chris Beard, the year they won the Big 12 title. Beat them, smacked them by 17. 2 days later, we're playing at Texas against Mo Bamba, first round pick. And, you know, like our kids being immature competitors, they went and partied and stuff like that. We end up getting smacked. You know, but that's like life. How do you handle that success? How do you handle the failure? How do you handle the hate and all that? So
that's awesome. Well, how do we stay updated with the book release, all that kind of stuff? Yeah,
like Underdog the book, underdogthebook.com. So like right now, I'm waiting on a launch date at any day, but like you can like throw the email, and so that way we'll get back to you. With that, you know, when the book is released.
What's social media information? What's all that?
Culture or Die. Just Culture or Die. Culture ORDIE.
And I'll have all that tagged, obviously, and all that. But just want to give that out. So as we talked about, you've been an amazing trainer and coach for a long time, and so I guess if you can, if you could say one thing to every youth basketball player coming up, what would be that one thing?
Man, that's just one thing. Just to care enough to surround yourself with people that love you enough to coach you hard, to tell you the truth. I told you about Demetrius, that's the kid that wrote my foreword. And if you saw the video I posted on IG today, you would think that I'm the biggest jerk and he would hate me. Well, if you go back and read the foreword, he wrote the foreword for my book, which is really dope. Like he's living his basketball dream. You know, like you talked about, you mentioned something from the book about just being prepared as an underdog. Here's the thing, man. When you commit to wanting to be a college basketball player, a professional player, or even one of the top players in your state, you organically become an underdog. You know what I mean? Because it's an adverse situation. It's a situation that most people aren't able to do. The odds are stacked against you.
There's only a certain amount of spots.
And what I've realized, bro, is that most people don't reach their underdog destiny because they fail to recognize they're in an underdog circumstance early on.
That's deep.
And so for me, like that would be my advice, to recognize as soon as you can, this is an underdog circumstance. So like my preparation needs to match that in terms of like, don't go to the trainer that's not challenging you. You know, don't go to the trainer. You didn't come to train to feel good. You came to train to become good. Most of the time when you train to become good, it ain't going to feel good. I don't know if you're a Ted Lasso guy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But like he talks about that all the time. He said challenges are like riding a horse. You know, if it feels comfortable, it feels good while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. Training, you know, this journey, if it feels good while you're trying to achieve it, like you're probably going about it wrong.
You gotta fail to keep on growing. I love it. Well, Nick, I really appreciate the time. First, I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
But I want to acknowledge you for just the character, intention, and energy you bring to your life,
right.
to everything you put your hands on, whether it's basketball, whether it's writing, whatever it is. I just really appreciate just your focus on how you show up for the world, and also how you incorporate your faith into everything. Nick's first book is God in Basketball, and our family is really connected and read that book, and it's been it's awesome how you connect those two worlds, because I mean, athletics is hard enough, and so when you combine that faith, I think it allows people to be stronger than they ever thought they could imagine being. So I just want to acknowledge you for all the great things you were doing for basketball in North America, not just in Colorado. So I appreciate that. Last question is what's your favorite thing about basketball?
Fellowship.
Yeah.
Fellowship. Basketball for me is a lot of things, but when I look back at it, I think that also, there's a lot of great things that comes with being a coach's kid, but there's also a lot of tough things like abruptly moving and stuff like that. And so, like, basketball has been the vehicle for me to develop family. Like I mentioned, like he worked with Bill Self. Bill Self's like an uncle to me.
Yeah.
And, big brothers. Like one of the coolest things about some of the success that God has allowed me to have with these books is it's like I appreciate all the love that everybody gets me, but it hits different coming from like my dad's former players. These are the guys that I looked up to, that I wanted to be like, and so to see them tell me they're proud of me, and then even the relationships in terms of training, like those they become my family. So more than anything, fellowship. I do want to say something because I'm sure most of the people watching are from Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So like we talked about off air, man, like I just want to, I think that as a whole, Colorado is basketball culture, basketball community, Colorado. Like we talk about recognizing you're in an underdog circumstance. Yeah. I think that we need to recognize that, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in an underdog circumstance, right, you don't have room to have an ego. You don't have room to make it about yourself. Like what's like one of the problems? What can we fix? We talk about being a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Being a part of the solution in Colorado is like the basketball community needs to come together.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trainer. Like let me digress. Tyler Ralph, an amazing dude, one of the best trainers on the planet. But Tim Martin, an amazing dude, one of the best trainers on the planet, trains Victor in San Antonio, has done TED Talks. When I was in Dallas over Christmas Eve, they invited me to join them in working out the top players in the city.
That's awesome.
Christmas Eve. First of all, is anybody in Colorado care enough about basketball to work out during Christmas Eve?
Probably
You know
not.
what I mean? But like, so we walk into the gym, bro, it's 35 deep. Everybody that's invited was there. And it's so dope. I might give you the picture. Maybe you could put it over the voice. It's so dope to look at that picture now, because man, it is some millionaires in that picture. Casey Wallace, Keaton Wallace, Drew Timme, Jordan Walsh, Keontae George. I mean, it is pros on top of pros on top of pros.
Yeah.
But to see the work that they put in, to see their dedication. But when you look at it, when you look at these trainers, instead of like, no, I'm Tyler Ralph, I'm Tim Martin, and it's just about me. We all came together, and I became a better trainer because I learned from them. Mm-hmm. Like we put like any sort of ego aside to serve and train a community and look at the result.
Yep.
So then I come to Colorado and I see everybody over here individualized. I'm here by myself. Bro, we ain't good enough. Because these kids suffer when we do that. Like, we have to come together for the sake of these kids. So I'm just challenging everybody, myself included, to do that. Like, come together, iron sharpens iron, and we need to do that for this community. Yeah,
I agree. I think in Colorado, we need to, come together to hold everybody accountable to a higher standard than what we have been currently doing.
No doubt.
I think the love of basketball is there, but how much we're willing to work, I think, and when we're willing to work, and having like from a coaching standpoint, having our mindset in the correct place for the kids, not just for our own agenda, things like that, Colorado can grow in those areas.
Yeah. And then to take it a step further, I think the people that do because there are competent coaches and adults and stuff like that. We need to come together, because we need to like be guardians of the game. We need to be gatekeepers, because like that's the other thing, bro. Like there's too many non-basketball people making money and not helping our kids, man. We need to close the borders down and stop letting these money-making camps that are quote unquote elite come in and give our kids a false sense of security and not help them and not support them and not make them better. We need to stop that, bro. I had somebody the other day, I got an email from somebody that's starting a basketball academy. The dude ain't never played basketball. He ain't never played basketball.
Just because you say you can.
And he's about to teach fundamentals. But that's Colorado. And again, we're underdogs. We can't afford for our young kids to be getting taught the game by somebody that doesn't know the game, that somebody can't teach the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
And all that. So that's my challenge.
Well, good, man. Well, I appreciate the time. Like I said, love with everything you're doing. Everyone, please look out for this book.
Yeah, let's go.
Everything will be tagged, website, everything will be in the description, all that. But Nick, appreciate the time.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Thank you.
That was good.